Most parents wait for something to go wrong with money before they start paying attention, but by then the lesson has already been expensive. But the first visible financial mistake is rarely the beginning of the problem. It is just the first time the problem became visible. He would whip out his phone and order lunch from the same restaurant. The habit added up to $400 to $500 a month. Does your teenager spend money to build something or to belong somewhere? Every year, thousands of students in Singapore graduate with excellent results. And every year, the same question quietly follows them out the gate. Are they actually ready? I'm Ernest Tan. This is Beyond the Report Card. Let's go beyond. Most parents wait for something to go wrong with money before they start paying attention, but by then the lesson has already been expensive. Let's naturally assume teenagers are in a low-stakes phase. But the first visible financial mistake is rarely the beginning of the problem. It is just the first time the problem became visible. The patterns were forming long before it arrived. We attach urgency to the moment of crisis, not to the moment of formation. Think about the last time your teenager made a financial decision that genuinely surprised you. Was it a one-off? Or was it the first time that you noticed a pattern had already been running quietly for months? I want to walk you through 3 forces that are quietly raising the financial stakes for your teenager right now, before adulthood begins, and 3 things you can do this week while that window is still open. In my years of running financial literacy workshops with secondary school students and even the higher tertiary levels, I keep seeing the same pattern. By the time a money problem becomes visible to the adults, the habit behind it has usually been forming quietly for a really long time. That problem doesn't usually arrive without some form of history. Canteen spending, digital purchases, peer-shaped choices, those were already there. Parents often confuse the visible problem with the beginning of that problem. Schools teach financial knowledge. They rarely train financial habit or financial judgment. I want to share something I witnessed in one of the workshops conducted. During the session where I was talking about budgeting, one of my team members quietly gestured me to head over to a participant, pointing at that participant. And I went over there genuinely interested to see what I was going to notice and realize. And on her phone was a budgeting app, open, very detailed, and actively in use. You could see different pie charts with different colors, different categories, and there were breakdowns of having a real picture of where her money was going to. When it was time for me to call the attention of the room, I highlighted her to the entire audience there. What struck me wasn't the app itself. It was what the app made possible. When I began to question her, she didn't guess. Could answer with precision, and that made better decisions moving forward based on the questions that I asked her. Clarity makes wise decisions possible. Without clarity, decisions tend to be quite reactive. When do you think your teenager's financial habits actually begin forming? Was it when you began giving them pocket money? Or was it earlier in smaller, quieter ways? This video is for parents of teenagers, secondary school age, and above. Want to build real money judgment before their child's independence outpaces their preparation. There are 3 forces that quietly raise the financial stakes for your teenager as they grow older. I call this the frequency, freedom, social pressure framework. Before we go further, if you're finding this very useful, do hit the like and subscribe button down below. I put out content like this every week to help people like you, school leaders, educators, and parents who are very serious about building these skills, these knowledge, and these attitudes for the next generation. It helps more people like you in your position to find the work that I do. First one is frequency. Your teenager is already making more financial decisions and independently made than you realize. Force 2 is freedom. As autonomy expands, adult oversight decreases. The gap between the two is where habits solidify. Force 3 is social pressure. As teenagers grow older, money decisions tend to be more tied to identity, belonging, and how they are perceived by all their peers. Now, these three forces don't arrive one at a time, they compound. And when they do, weak financial judgment becomes increasingly costly. Long before adulthood arrives. Here's the simplest thing that you can do this week. Count the number of independent financial decisions that your teenager is already making without you being there. In Singapore, a secondary school student might top up their EZ-Link card, buy food at a canteen, pick up something from the shop that they pass by on the way home, or make an in-app purchase, maybe even contribute to a friend's birthday gift. Sometimes, all in the same day, all of those feel significant. But each one is a decision made without adult input. For 1 week, track the decisions, not the amount. Don't judge, just count that number. If the number surprises you, your teenager is already making financial decisions regularly. The question is whether those decisions are building judgment or are they just accumulating into a habit. This is force 1, frequency. And most parents underestimate how early and how often it is already taking place. Force 1 is frequency. As your teenager gets older, the number of independent financial decisions they make each week grows. And every single decision is either building good judgments or reinforcing weak habits. In primary school, spending is mostly parent directed. Secondary school, pocket money, canteen, transport, they become a little more independent. Upper secondary, outings, group spending, personal choices are then routine. Pre-tertiary, in polytechnic, ITE, university sometimes, some of them are managing part-time income across maybe different work or different jobs that they have. Each stage adds more decisions without necessarily adding more preparatory training. I want to share a student that I remember. Every single dismissal in the school that I taught at every single day, he would whip out his phone and order lunch from the same restaurant. And I want to repeat that restaurant. Not a hawker center. It is a mid-level sit-down type of restaurant, and it would typically cost about $20 per meal per person. His parents definitely linked a credit card that belonged to them to that app. Every single day, the habit added up to about $400 to $500 a month across the different school days, and this is a significant amount of money for many families. For him, it was automatic, unreflective. These small decisions form the habit. Big decisions reveal that habit. By the time the amounts are large, the pattern is already set. Here is a practical step. Introduce a weekly money check-in at home. One question. What do you spend on this week? And was it worth it? 5 minutes, not an interrogation. It is a reflection. The point isn't the answer. The point is to habitualize that thinking. Force 2 is freedom. As your teenager grows, you give them more independence. That is. But if financial judgment hasn't been trained alongside freedom, more independence simply means more unsupervised decisions. Freedom expands into predictable stages. More outings, later nights, personal transport, eventually their own income that comes from their part-time jobs. Most parents prepare carefully for academic transitions. However, fewer parents prepare deliberately for the financial autonomy that arrives at almost exactly the same time. This is quite personal for me. About 2 months before the recording of this video, my older son went on a trip to China as an immersion program with his school. We gave him some spending money in renminbi for extras beyond what the school has already covered. He was away from us for about 5 days, and therefore he never needed to talk to us, speak to us, sought our approval for any spending that he did. When he came home, he had spent almost every single cent of it. And that genuinely surprised us because when he is at home, he normally keeps most or if not some of that money aside. When we asked him why, he gave us two answers that genuinely surprised and impressed me. First and foremost, he said, having the renminbi left over meant that there is no opportunity to spend it because we had no plans to go back to China anytime soon. Why not use the renminbi? Second, the amount of money that he spent, most of it was for gifts for his family members, the two of us, my wife and I, his brothers, and his grandmother. He had spent very little on himself. His thinking was considered and it was contextual. And that didn't happen by accident. It came from the conversations that we have had with him at home consistently over time. Well, some parents will push back on this and say, when they have real money, they will learn. But learning from a financial mistake that they make is very expensive for them, emotionally, practically. Training period is now, while the consequences are still manageable. Here is a practical step. With every new level of freedom that your teenager gains, assign a matching level of responsibility. When the allowance increases, introduce a saving expectation. When they begin part-time work, have a conversation about how their income is being managed. And please, don't take some of that money away from them. Let them use it. Freedom and responsibility needs to grow together. When you give your teenager more freedom, you are also giving them more responsibility. Force 3 is social pressure, and in my humble opinion, it is the most underestimated of the three forces. Teenagers grow older, money stops becoming just a pure practical tool. It carries social meaning, tied to identity belonging and how they are seen by their peers. Secondary school, spending choices are often observed by their peers. Phone, the shoes, the outing, the group contribution, all of that carries group signals and that adds to peer pressure. A teenager without a financial framework will tend to spend reactively. In response to the group, not in response to the values that you bring your child up in. I've seen this in workshops that I run with youths from more difficult financial backgrounds. Sometimes I will notice expensive items on those participants, items that seem rather inconsistent to the circumstances that they come from. And out of curiosity, I would often make a passing remark. That's a nice item. How much did it cost you? And genuinely, the answer surprised me. Often than not, the next question I ask is, why did you buy that? And very few said, I like it. Some would say, a version of it, not exactly what I'm saying now, but because my friends have it. And that seems to highlight to me they want to have it to belong. The decision wasn't built on a personal value. It was built on belonging. Belonging is a powerful, legitimate need, but without a financial framework alongside it, it tends to be expensive. Here's a practical step. Have one grounding conversation about what money is for in your family. Not a lecture, a genuine conversation. What are you building that money toward? Give your teenager something to anchor their decisions to when social pressure rises. Does your teenager spend money to build something or to belong somewhere? Both are understandable. Only one is trainable. Here is what we now know. The financial stakes for your teenager are already rising. Not dramatically, but quietly. Through freedom, frequency, and social pressure. For frequency, more decisions are already happening with or without you. Freedom, spending autonomy without matching training, does create the gap. Social pressure, spending becomes identity before it becomes a habit. Here are 3 steps this week. Step 1, start the weekly money check-in. One simple question, 5 minutes, once a week. What do you spend your money on this week and was it worth it? Tiny decisions form this habit. This conversation turns daily spending into deliberate thinking. Step 2, match every new freedom with a matching responsibility. When the allowance increases, introduce a saving expectation. Part-time income arrives, introduce a plan. Freedom and responsibility needs to grow together. Finally, have the grounding conversation, not rules. A genuine family conversation. What are we using the money to build? Without the framework, your teenager is navigating social spending pressure purely by feeling, and feelings are very volatile. Grounding conversation gives them something solid to hold on to. If this video gave you a clearer picture of why your teenager's spending habits are more urgent than you thought, The next logical step is understanding what financial maturity actually looks like at this age and what you are training toward. I have a free resource at www.leavenacademy.com/maturity, designed for parents who want practical tools for building real money judgment in their teenagers. It is there as my free gift and my value add to you. And if you want to explore how Leaven Academy can work with your child's school to deliver financial maturity formation as a structured program, the details are in the description down below. As always, you can reach me at ernest@leavenacademy.com, or you can contact me and you can schedule a meeting with me at www.leavenacademy.com/contact. Financial maturity is not what your teenager knows in his or her head. It is what they do when the freedom increases and the consequences become real. That is what Leaven Academy is designed to build. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.